Welcome to episode 11 of the Midweek Malt. Here is your host Robbie from robbiestalkingts.
Hello everybody, welcome to episode 11 of the Midweek Malt, my weekly tarantula podcast where I discuss with you everything tarantula and answer your questions that you send me all through the week, comments on videos on Instagram, etc. And yeah, we just discuss what you want to talk about. So today I've got a few questions that were posted over to me during the week. So I'm not really going to chat much, I'm going to get straight into it. The first question I got was, how do you feel about tarantulas being sold in pet shops like Pets at Home, Petco, etc.? For example, it's great exposure, makes them more available, or it's bad because they're mostly wild caught, or it makes them too available so just anyone can buy them. Is it good and bad? Would you prefer tarantulas were only available by breeders specialising in them? Well, this is not a very straightforward answer to a question. I know a lot of people are going to turn around and say, no, pet shops are bad, they shouldn't have spiders, they have no knowledge on how to keep them, etc, etc, which is 100% true. Most pet stores don't have a clue about how to keep these animals. They normally set them up really, really, really badly, and they are just to the store something to make profit with. They just throw them out. They're like on a loop. Put one up on the shelf, sell it, put the next one up, sell it, blah 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 blah. The only problem I have with pet shops is that not many people know pet stores get their tarantulas mostly from the specialised breeders that we all buy our tarantulas from. They all come in on shipments from Europe or from, out west. They land in the country, someone picks them up, they get distributed all over the place. Our breeders, they sell them to shops when they pick them up through their contacts, who they get. It's all one big profit making thing. So to turn around and say only get them from specialised breeders, well, that's where pet shops get them from. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. I think what needs to happen more is pet shops need to be taught and given better care information on them. Rather, pet shops are kind of like people in the hobby that buy from pet shops. It's normally an impulse buy. They don't know what they're picking up and they go out there without doing any research on them whatsoever, and then before they know what they've got, they're like asking the question, damn, how do I keep this? They have no idea. They've got no clue. And pet shops are exactly the same. They see something like a tarantula with the hobby getting bigger and bigger and expanding, more and more and more and more people are joining it every day, and they go, you know what, we want a piece of that action, we want profit out of people buying tarantulas. They pick up all these spiders they know nothing about, and then that's it. Because their turnaround is so quick, where the hobby is growing, they don't take the time to learn what they've got. It's not like cats and dogs, which is common knowledge how you look after a cat and a dog. You feed it, you take it for walks, you let it go to the toilet, give it water, that's it. That's been around for years and years and years. It's common knowledge. But pet shops, they really don't care about that. As long as it's alive in the shop and they sell it to someone, that is all they care about. So I would say that it would be a good thing for tarantulas if pet shops actually took time to learn about what they've got in stock. And yeah, that's all I can really say on it. It's one of them things, we're never going to get tarantulas out of pet shops, and just specifically to specialised breeders is just never ever going to work like that. unfortunately. So I think rather than slating pet shops, they should be educated more. I mean, you guys can do it. If you go into a pet shop and you see a tarantula and you see it being kept wrong, you can go and say, can I speak to your manager? Like, honestly, I've got expertise in this. It's something that, you know, I do passionately, full time. I've got X amount. This is how this should be set up. Can you please do it? Because you are neglecting your animals, and it's not good to see that kind of thing. It's definitely not a good image to put out to the public that you actually don't care about the animals you're keeping. So more of that would be better, rather than slating pet shops. It's a business at the end of the day, and all businesses, whether you like it or not, are driven by profits and what sells and what's big at the time. And it doesn't matter whether it's clothing or, you know, like trainers or tops or jackets or anything like that, whether it's supermarkets, you know, they want to put out food on the shelves which, you know, sells like hotcakes. This pet shops are no different. That's all it's driven by. And if you think about it, specialised breeders, they're exactly the same mentality. I mean, specialised breeders, yes, they do have a passion for the animals, but they're not pets. So specialised sellers, they're stock. There's something to sell. There's something, you know, to maintain their lifestyle, to put food on their tables. So even though they give better care to a degree, they don't give it the care you're going to give it when you put it in your hands. I mean, I've been to breeders' houses and shops and how they keep them. If you watch my videos on invert shows and you see them all in the little containers on the table ready to be sold, they're like that 99% of the time while they're with the breeders. They're not all in big elaborate setups like you would have when you get home. Some of them, if they're being kept for breeding, they get housed properly, but most of the time, no, they just get turned around and sold, and you know, they're just stock at the end of the day. So I don't think just having specialized breeders in them will do anything to benefit in that way. Just more education needs to be made. So hopefully that answers your question on that. The next question I got in was, is posting tarantulas on social, or my opinion on posting tarantulas on social media, the good, the bad, the benefits, the downfalls, your opinions? I do like people posting tarantula pictures and videos on social media. I think it's good to break the stigma that these animals have in the media of being big, bad, nasty creatures that want to eat you. But the downside is, with the current trends on like Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that, there's a current trend that people just want to be popular. There's a real ego-driven thing going on right now. I've got to be the biggest, I've got to be the best, I've got to do the next big thing, I've got to, you know, I've got to increase my followers, I've got to get 1 million likes. And that leads to really bad practices. And like I just said, with pet shops and breeders, tarantulas just being stock, unfortunately on social media, tarantulas are no longer pets, they're props. They're just props to gain popularity. So unfortunately what happens is, you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, and you see people doing really, really stupid stuff. Like, they'll have tarantulas on their head, in their mouths, they'll be handling, they'll be, you know, feeding them live mice, or, you know, rats, or doing the next, or getting bitten even, like deliberately getting bitten. And that's the downside to it all, that the drive for popularity on social media platforms outweighs people just wanting to change the bad image that these animals have got. And what they inadvertently do is actually make that image worse. So for people like me who are trying weekly, daily, monthly, yearly to put out a message that these animals are not big, nasty creatures, it makes it like we're absolutely wasting our time. Because for every, say for example, I put a video out and I get 300 views on it, that's 300 people that are getting good information. But these clowns on TikTok and Instagram, they're getting like 40, 50, 60,000 views. So that's 40, 50, 60,000 people that are getting a bad message. So 300, 60,000 people. This is outweighing this by miles. And that is my problem with tarantulas being on social media and being treated like that. Of course, I want people to show off their animals. Of course, I want people to be proud of what they've got. Of course, I want the stigma removed. But it's really, really, really difficult when people have this I have to be popular mentality. That really, really drives me insane. I would much rather gain popularity from giving a good message than, you know, sticking my finger in an enclosure and having an OBT bite me. Because it's not only that, people see something like that, they're not aware of the repercussions. They don't see the after the video stopped filming. You know, the tarantula that's just bitten it may have broken a fang, may have got injured, you know, anything could have happened. It could have run off the table, it could have splattered on the floor, anything could have happened. But all the viewer gets to see is that couple of seconds and they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Next video. There's no care after that. There's no, you know, I want to see that again. It's just ridiculous. Even to the point of, remember the other week on the podcast, I discussed the issue of hybridization. Here's a perfect example. I was sent clips of a guy on TikTok who is actively, publicly proud of the fact that he is hybridizing tarantulas. He has got video clips on there, 2 different species, trying to breed them. Not only is he sending a bad message because of hybridization, there are thousands of people that, due to that being done, are like, I don't see the problem. And it doesn't matter how much you say this is why it's a problem, they're like, nah, it's cool, isn't it? It's really great that he's doing that. Power to him. Like, that's exactly what I mean by people being irresponsible just for popularity. And that's why I can't support it. That's why I'm really dubious. Like, if you go onto my TikTok channel, all I do is post, you know, I've got a new video out and put the thumbnail on there. I can't bring myself to do these crazy attention seeking videos, because for me that means I'm helping. I'm doing something just for popularity, and I'm exploiting the animals for entertainment. And I know what you're going to say, well, you do that anyway on YouTube, but I like to think that the way that I do it, I'm not exploiting them at all. I'm doing what I initially said. I'm showing the world the beauty of these animals. I'm not showing them what they want to see from these animals, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. And then that leads into this next question, which is really strange because it's kind of along the same lines. How do you feel about using tarantulas in movies, TV? How do you feel about it? They are mostly portrayed as these scary animals in horror movies. What's your opinion about that? What would you change if you could? Well, it's the same as the social media. The reason why those stigmas exist, and like what I said about pet shops, the only reason why those stigmas exist is because people are fueling that over and over and over and over again. Because, you know, if you've got an idea in your head about something, most people are reluctant for you to change their minds. They're more likely to watch something if it plays in to what they think they know. Like if you see, like the general public, when they watch like arachnophobia, like that played in to the years and years and years of being told these animals, they want to bite you, they want to crawl up your bed in the night, they want to, you know, drink the saliva from your mouth, they want to kill you, they're nasty. They don't know that, you know, the main big spider in it was a Ferrophosa blondie, which is a New World tarantula, which is, even though it's fast and it can be defensive, it's not going to kill you. Like, they don't know that the little babies and, you know, like the juveniles that were all crawling around were all just huntsmen, which are really harmless. Like, they wouldn't hurt a fly. No one knows about that. If you told them that, they're like, nah, you're wrong. But they'll go, nah, look, the film is saying, it's not real, by the way, it's a film. The film's saying they're nasty, so they're nasty. So that's why I don't agree with it, because, again, like the social media, it hinders our ability to put out good information, and it makes it very, very, very difficult to change someone's opinion and change their mind on something which has been so ingrained into their brain over their whole lifespan. So that if I could change one thing, it would be if you're not gonna portray these animals in a good light and the correct light, then don't portray them at all. Even like things like, I don't know, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. Now thousands and thousands and thousands of people watch that TV show weekly, every single year. They think it's funny, they think it's amusing, they like seeing, you know, people get snakes and spiders dropped on their faces, or they have to lie in the coffin with all their rats. But what they don't realise is every single aspect of the animal use on that show is abuse. It's animal abuse. It's neglect, it's animal cruelty, it's traumatising for the animal. But you tell that to the general public, they're like, shut up. What are you talking about? But you go watch, if you see a video online of someone throwing a cat, you see the backlash they get from that. It's no different. It's exactly the same. It's an animal being treated cruelly for what they thought was an entertainment purpose. Like, that's why it shouldn't be done. Like, every year I never watch that TV show, just purely because it is animal cruelty at its finest. But the general population aren't gonna stop watching it. The only way they would stop watching it is if there was a big culture shift and everyone turned around and said, you know what, that's really, really, really out of order. And the information that they got was, you know, better. And until they get that, they're really, really, it's not going to change. It's going to be very difficult. It's like like on YouTube, there's so many channels out there that give so much good information, and they've dedicated their whole lives, like myself included, dedicated to the fact of I want to put out good information. It will take me 50-60 years of putting out good information before I could even get close to changing the perception that has been laid out by all the big media companies and, you know, social media. All that stuff, it just undoes everybody's hard work who is really trying to change that. So I don't agree with it. Social media or TV and film portrayals of these animals, I just can't do it. It doesn't matter how I look at it. It doesn't, what angle I look at it. I don't, you know, I just can't. I just can't bring myself to do it, because my morals and my values, like when it comes to these animals, and my passion for these animals, it just undoes it. Like, I could put out 10 videos tomorrow giving you 1,000,000% accurate information, which is really, really needed. All a TikToker has to do is put out one video of, you know, a spider sat on their head, and more people are going to think that is what you do than the videos I just put out. It's crazy. It's just not good. It's not good for the animals, and it's not good for the hobby. So that's my answer for that one. The last question I've got is, do you believe in trying to fast grow your tarantulas, feeding bigger prey more often to make them grow faster? This person turns around and says, I personally don't think it works. They just go into pre-molt longer, but would love to hear what you think. And I think you're absolutely right in that. A lot of people I've heard recently have got this idea that if you feed a tarantula, like, just say for example, once a week and it gets fat, that's bad for the animal. It's not. It's really not. It's the biggest craziness and the biggest nonsense I've ever heard in my life. When you sit there and you really study a tarantula, right? Say you have got a time span, say it's a year, right? And say in that year, a tarantula has to eat, rough figure, say 4 dubia roaches, 4 large dubia roaches. It doesn't, I'm just using hypotheticals just to keep it simple, in the space of a year. If that tarantula eats those 4 dubias in the first month, that's all it needs to eat. And then for the next 11 months, it's going to be in pre-molt. If the tarantula eats 4 dubia roaches in 4 months, the rest of the time span is going to be in pre-molt. If it's longer between meals, it will just shorten the pre-molt period. Because I don't think what people understand about tarantulas is that they have triggers. Everything about tarantulas is triggers. Certain things need to happen to trigger certain responses. And food intake and water intake is a trigger for pre-molt. Do you ever wonder why your tarantula refuses food? Because it's in pre-molt, or it's just had enough. A tarantula is not going to eat what it doesn't need. And I've heard the argument, you know, tarantulas in the wild are skinnier. You know, they're not as fat as the ones in captivity. Well, guess what? Do you know why that is? It's because tarantulas in the wild don't get as much opportunity to eat. That's the only reason why they're skinnier. Guarantee if there was more abundance of food in their natural habitat, that they would eat as much as they can, as quick as they can. Because they need to store the food and the hydration to get to their next molt, in order to grow. That's just how they work. Like, it's like, for example, people say, you know, you should starve if its abdomen's getting bigger. You know, you should starve it. You should long it out. You should try and maintain a thinner appearance. You know, tarantulas can go months and months and months and months without food, and you know, you don't have to feed them every week. That is a nonsense, in my opinion. And I'll tell you why. Just because a tarantula can go months without food doesn't mean it should. It's like the human body. I know it's with different species, but did you know the human body can go 3 weeks without food, and it can go 1 week without water? Does that mean, you know, if you see where I'm going here? We eat every day. Just because we can do something doesn't mean it's healthy and we should. And tarantulas are the same. Just because they can go months or choose to go months without food doesn't mean it's healthy. The only time they really go without food for a long period of time is because they've ate their fill as much as they need previously. They don't just suddenly wake up on one day and go, do you know what? Don't want it anymore. I know you get the rare occasion that you'll feed it a couple of dubias or a couple of superworms, and it will go a few weeks and refuse food, and then a few weeks later it will eat again. But the tarantula knows how much it needs, and you've got to realise when a tarantula molts, it needs a certain amount of fluid in its body in order to molt properly. Just how it works. If it doesn't have enough fluid in its body when it does the molting process, that's normally where you have molting issues and they get stuck in their molt. Which is why you always have to provide a water dish, because say you give it a big drink at, say, the beginning of the year, we'll use that 12-month span. Say at the beginning of the year, it stops drinking and it goes 11 months. The water that it's drunk, it's using it for its own hydration, and it's also storing a little bit for the molt. But the stuff that it's using, by the time it gets to the molt, it won't have enough, so you keep providing it. It's the same with foods. They have to store a certain amount that will sustain them for a certain amount of time, and also get them through molting. Like, it's all mathematical. Like, and you just can't do it. You just can't overfeed it. So as far as feeding them more to get them bigger and whatnot, like, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. You can't. What's the words I'm looking for? That, in the reptile hobby they use the term, I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but it doesn't work with tarantulas because they work on time limits, and they work on amount of food and water intake. So based on that, you just can't do it. I mean, I know some people say that temperatures play a part, but the only reason why temperatures play a part is because when you're warmer, your metabolism works quicker, and when you're colder, the metabolism works slower. So instead of a year, if you keep it warmer, the tarantula will eat more and drink more, so it will have the amount it needs, but the metabolism will speed up, so the growth rate inside the old exoskeleton will speed up. It's not the amount of food they've had, it's just that their body's sped up. They still need the same amount of food, whether they're kept at 24 degrees or whether they're kept at 31 degrees. The food isn't what determines the length until they get to pre-molt. The temperatures do. So, I don't think you can do it to that degree. I think a tarantula is going to molt exactly when it needs to. Like, so yeah, I just don't believe that it's possible in tarantulas to do it. I mean, it is nice, like when you've got tiny little slings, if you keep them that slight bit warmer and their metabolism does speed up just to get them out of the sling stage, right, just to give them that little bit of help, I don't see the problem there. But as far as anything else, like, it's a nonsense. You're going to have the tarantula as long as you're going to have the tarantula. It's going to grow at the speed it's going to grow, and it's going to eat and drink the amount that it needs. They're not like humans. They're not gluttonous. I mean, we overeat. We deliberately overeat, and that's why we get fat and we don't shift it. But when a tarantula gets fat, when it molts, if you look at the abdomen, it loses a lot of that which is stored up. They use it to molt. So it's just a nonsense. And I know a lot of people say, well, with fat tarantulas, there's more chance of the abdomen rupturing if it has a fall or something like that. But what I always say is, if you're keeping the tarantula correctly, how's it going to have a fall? Like, I think that is a real cop-out to cover up for husbandry mistakes more than, If a terrestrial, if you're keeping a terrestrial correctly and you give it the right amount of substrate and it's not got any space to fall, if it's going to burrow or it's going to sit on top, what's being fat going to do? If you're keeping it incorrectly and it's got the chance to climb and the chance to fall and it's got a big fat booty, it's not because it's got a fat booty, it's because you gave it too much space to climb to let it have that accident. So I think a lot of things in the hobby are said to kind of cover up husbandry mistakes, because they would rather blame an external source rather than blame themselves for something so simple. But that's my take on it. That's my take on that. If you agree with me, you agree with me. If you don't, you don't. All the evidence is there. All you have to do is go and research it and look at tarantula biology and stuff like that, and you'll soon come to the conclusion that a lot of what is thrown around is just hearsay and just guesswork. Just go out and look at the facts and learn it for yourself. You'll be quite amazed about what you can learn about these animals that isn't put out there in the mainstream. It's absolutely fascinating. But anyway, those are the questions I got today. So this is going to be the end of the podcast. Before we go, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's tuned in every single week. And thanks to all the people that are sending me questions to cover. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to make this podcast possible. I also want to remind you guys about the 2,000 subscriber giveaway we've got going on the channel. At 2,000 subscribers, I'll be giving one of you the chance to win a T. Celadonia, and I'm also throwing in a Ferrophosa apophysis on top of that. All you have to do is be subscribed to the channel, go and watch my Grammostola rosea video and just write T. Celadonia in the comments. And as soon as we hit 2,000 subscribers, I'll be doing the draw in a live stream, probably one Saturday afternoon, so hopefully I'll see a lot of you there. So if you're interested in that, go over and do it. We're getting closer. Thank you, just thank you to everyone who's subscribed so far. I'm going to end it here. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing all your comments and all your questions down below. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.